Simba, I must tell you about the circle of life and how you must find your place in it, regardless of what age you're at the time. You must grow
and resist the shame that will be put to you.
Going on a journey.
We're going on a journey. Today, we're going to be talking about the sexual marketplace and the average journey that a woman typically goes through during her years in the sexual marketplace from the ages of 15 to 50. And the source material for this is The Rational Male, Preventive Medicine by Rollo Tomassi. It's his second book. And once again, hat tip to Rollo Tomassi and the Rational Male YouTube channel. Link it in the description below. And there's a couple of graphics that we'll also have linked. It's the women's SMV timeline and then the sexual marketplace graph that kind of shows the ebbs and flows of men's and women's relative sexual marketplace value. We'll go ahead and have that posted up here right quick in times that it makes sense to do so in the video.
I like when there's pictures.
Yeah, we got pictures and stuff, and then we'll have arrows pointing to things because
you read this? There's
fantastic
pictures.
Professional editing. Thank you so much, professional editing. Let's get into what we're talking about here. First, we'll have an overview. We'll get through why it matters as far as the different brackets of years that we'll be covering, which are the formative years, the Epiphany Phase, the security and redevelopment or development phases, and the redevelopment / reinsurance and second security phases. So why does this matter? The bottom line is, if you don't have any idea about what's going on in the sexual marketplace writ large, it is very easy to fall into traps. And there are lots of trends that we can see throughout our society and throughout depictions on social media and all kinds of craziness in the world around us. And we can take these patterns and make observations based on them.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Some areas are traps. Some areas are not. And the reason why we're getting through this is both to equip men and women to have a general understanding of what's going on and to position yourself properly based on what's going on in your circumstances. Now, the idea is that this is representative of the general direction for women's maturation and the priorities of attraction they put on men's attributes during these phases from age 15 to 50. And we understand that not all women are like this, Nawalt, otherwise known as, there are outliers. Some things are not going to follow these trends.
So like the snowflake thing.
Well, yeah.
You're going to find like a million different, but my friends, aunts, dogs, cousins.
Sure, there's exceptions to all these rules. And the exception does not disprove the rule. Let's see. So the formative years kind of goes from 15 to the early party years. The Epiphany Phase goes from the late party years all the way to about when they hit the wall, where they are no longer as competitive as their younger selves in the sexual marketplace. So it's about the age of 30. Then you've got security and development phases. That's from 30 to about 38. And then you've got the redevelopment, reinsurance, and security phases, 38 to 50. That whole range. And so that kind of gives you an idea roughly of how things go. And we'll have a nice handy dandy graph up to point at various sections of this graph.
Handy dandy notebook.
Handy dandy notebook. You notice that there's a lot of things that change substantially in the lives of women as they mature, right?
Yes.
Yes. Pretty straightforward stuff.
Yes.
It's almost like there are different things going on. And what do you think might have to do with it if you hadn't gone through the source material? What would be your impressions?
Hormonies.
Hormonies? Okay. What do you mean by that?
Definitively, I see it makes sense that it starts at 15 because that is generally most females, even late bloomers, have either entered or pretty much completed the main like growth spurt development phase of puberty. So they have already, and honestly, let me warn you, it starts at like 9. They start to get weird and like moody and weird. And you're just like, what's wrong with you? What happened to my little girl? And then hormonies, that's what happened to her. So heads up. With boys, it actually starts earlier at like 8. It's like when babies get teeth. They push and then they don't. You know, you can see that something's happening. But then all of a sudden, boop.
There they go.
There they are.
How about that?
Just like with girls. Oh, there they are.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. It's like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
you have stuff on your chest now. How about that?
I contain those. So it makes sense that is why it starts. It's like, oh my gosh, you have to let children be children. Well, yes, but you have to know these things. And that's the whole point, is like, you have to know that what, the game is the foot. I love Parks and Rec. So that you can see the signs, see the patterns of development, and not just go, oh my gosh, you have a monster instead of a child anymore. Like, who is this person that's inhabited my child's body?
Once again, we define the formative years as 15 to about 25, where a woman's sexual marketplace value peaks. And one thing before we move on, something that's really important to get a hold of is a person's sexual marketplace value is not indicative of their value as a human being, right? They are separate things. But we would be remiss if we didn't let you know that our value in the market of mating and dating is not something we ourselves determine. It is determined by the buyers of our services.
See basic economics.
Yeah. It's not
Supply
the
and
suppliers.
demand.
Yeah, the suppliers don't get to set the price
Exactly.
without like bounds on it.
You can set the price all you want. It doesn't mean anybody's buying it.
And so that reminds me of
I know my worth.
I know my worth. I'm not settling for nothing. Things like that. So there's a distinction between sexual marketplace value and intrinsic human value.
And this is the core tenet that we've had since episode 0.
Sure.
Like, this is what we've operated on. Just because we talk about natural biological bends and trends and all of this thing does not, and the S word, just because I'm like, you should be a submissive, wife, whatever, it doesn't mean you're a doormat. It doesn't mean this is your role as a kind of support character here. It doesn't mean that you have less value to a family, to your marriage. We have equal value as human beings and partners in life, but we don't have the same dynamic. It is not like that whole and I think that's where the feminized social order wants to sell you that 50-50 situation, because they make the grave mistake of equating value with role or responsibility.
Sure. So we hit up the two major disclaimer statements that not all women are like this, and SMV and your human value are not necessarily the same and are rarely exactly the same.
So please don't.
But
Please
the
don't
people
in
on
the
TikTok,
comments. Don't.
they won't have this
course.
as any kind of context.
Well, they'll
so
see a 60-second clip and go, "Oh, look at you."
that's okay. Let them be
You're
upset.
devaluing women.
That's okay.
Like, shut up.
It's okay for them to be upset. So formative years, we would define it as 15 to about 25. And here are things that men should focus on at this point in time. If you're looking to be peak attractiveness to the women in these age groups, you want to focus on your physique, your physical prowess, and your social standing are the three big things, because most of the time when women are in high school, they don't really care about provisioning at all. They're usually at home still, where their basic needs are being met. If there's a father in the home, then dad's got it covered. If not, it's being covered somehow. And there you go. And
At the very least, CPS is making sure this kid's basic needs are at least met somewhat adequately.
depending on if there's a case or not. But why 15? Well, one, you talked about hormones. And I think that culturally, we see this in a lot of cultures. Like, for example, I'm half Mexican, so quinceañeras are things that are a big thing. It's like a woman being brought out into the world and being presented to be an option to be dated. And then in American culture, we've always had Sweet 16 parties. And in higher society, you've got debutante balls that usually you make your debut at 16. So
Bridgerton fans?
And it's not a matter of like, hey, we're trying to focus in on the before 18, but we're understanding that there are realities to the game starts before 18 for a lot of people. And we're not here to say that anybody should be dipping into that pool.
No.
Consenting adults. That's what we talk about.
And the age of consent is a thing.
Right.
Legally. But you have to at least consider at around this age, especially even earlier when they hit those ages that end in teen, because you don't want to get to 15, 16 and go, oh my gosh, ostensibly, legally, you become an adult at 18. So that means I have like 2 or 3 years to like prepare you for all of this.
Right.
And just kind of throw that all at a child and go, okay, see you later. Good luck.
Good luck. Push.
Right? We started looking into them transitioning to a at least older child / small adult at like in one phase at 8 and then again at like 12, 13.
And elevating their level of responsibility and the kinds of things we talk to them about is they have changed as they have matured. And I think that's part of an intentional parenting process to introduce our children to the world as it is, not the world as we would want it to be, right? Whereas I think a lot of people mistake those two things. They mistake descriptive reality, the things that we can see, touch, and taste, from idealism or ideology. Those are very different things. And a lot of times we just have to have a really good grounded understanding of what is, if we're to make the necessary move to bring about the world we want to see.
Yeah, I think that's why there's such an importance on fathers in the home, especially when a single mom has to be both mom and dad. They have to be both the provider, and they're just worrying about like making ends meet. It's like that Maslow's hierarchy where you can't get to those finer points where you can really consciously steer a child in their development to transition much slower. And you're just worried about survival so much that you get to that 16 age and you're like, oh no, I have to prepare this.
Right.
It's more reactive than proactive.
Sure. Now, things that we often see in high school in terms of dating dynamics is we've got standard things like balls and proms and things of that nature. But we also have things like cheerleaders typically get with athletes, and male athletes are usually in demand in terms of the people that the women want to be dating. Or college guys, if they're a senior in high school or a junior in high school. Sometimes they're dating the early college guys because they want to get an early ticket to that show.
They just naturally spend a ton of time together. So in that UIL world, so it would stand to reason.
Sure, they do a lot of traveling and all that together.
But you see those things where I'm stereotyping.
Okay.
So I guess I'm saying the weird thing.
Go for it.
That the girls on the soccer team and the girls on the softball team aren't generally like
first pick material. Well, I mean, hey, it takes different kinds for different folks. So a lot of times, though, after high school, women will maybe not go directly into college, or they'll take a break, and maybe a year or two, or even after college, they might take a break and they'll go and explore their new context. And we'll see this as a recurring theme in the different stages of life. Like when you graduate from high school, if you decide to take a break, all of a sudden you have all this new freedom with your time that you didn't have when you were in high school. And that new context means a lot of different things to women in that they've got to figure out what life looks like in that break time.
Even if you do go to college, especially if you were previously in public school and you go to college, there's not a bell that rings and you go to the next thing. There's not your mom waking you up in the morning telling you, hey, you have to get up because you got to go to school.
Sure.
There's a ton of ambiguity in how you spend your time. That is, I know I experienced like a lot of that overwhelm. It was like, everything's so open. Like, it's weird.
It is weird, right? And the thing is, I would make a distinction between taking a break and going to college. While they are similar in that they have a lot more freedom than high school did, you have a lot more freedom of time with taking a distinct break than you do with college if you're taking a full-time load, right? You have more responsibilities that are levied upon you. If you're paying your own bills, if somebody else is paying your bills for you, like you want to put forth a good faith effort to get the education that someone is paying for. Whereas if you are taking a break, there are no real concrete expectations And that causes a lot of chaos in that there is just no left and right boundaries for a lot of folks. And you see that sometimes women will take a break before going to college or after going to college before moving into going into their career field. And those same kinds of things you'll see with a completely different context. And I think you'll see the same kind of deal in college in that when you have a whole new group of people that you're hanging out with and a lot of different social pressures, like, for instance, joining a sorority, there's really big social pressures associated with something like that doesn't exist if you're just working a job or if you're still in high school. They're very different things. We'll talk a little bit about the start of the party years. So this is about when women graduate from college, around 22 to 24. That's kind of like their SMV peak years. And this is when they have the most amount of optionality in terms of the sexual marketplace.
They're just lining up left and right to offer this and offer this. And they're just like, cool.
You're talking about the men are?
Yeah.
Okay.
The bakery is open.
With the bakery being open and with it being like the highest level of optionality, what do you think people going into this phase of life where they were dating high school sweethearts and the game changes along the way?
The sheer volume of options just explodes, right? So they're like, wait a minute, why am I still stuck with this? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't need this. I have all these other options here. I want to go try it. It's like a buffet. It's like, I want to try everything.
And we were talking about that last week, right?
Yeah.
The concept of hypergamy
Yeah.
Is she with the best man that she can get? And when you are dating in high school, your dating pool is relatively small. And then when you graduate from high school and you start growing into the most attractive version of yourself that you will likely be throughout your life, the options change. And the question often comes up, is this guy the best I can be with?
I don't even think that's a conscious thing.
It's not. It's a thing
Definitely.
that rolls around in the back.
And I don't even think there's conscious realization that this is the hottest you will ever be in your entire life. It's all downhill from here. You might as well make the most of it. If it was, honestly, they would be like starting to go, wait a minute, maybe I gotta, okay, have fun, but also be
thinking about things.
Think about long range. There's no realization of that. It's just, this is what there is. This must be. And then in the back files, this will always be the thing.
And so that's some delusion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I think that it is something that our society pushes to protect the feelings of women, generally speaking, is older women do not want to be faced with the reality that they cannot compete with their younger selves. Much less the new people coming into the market.
The class of 2025.
Right. But the thing is, like, a lot of women will look in the mirror and they will delude themselves into thinking that they are hotter at 35 than they were at 25.
You know, because you look in the mirror like every single day, you don't see that actual progression of aging.
Right.
Like, and then all of a sudden you'll look at a picture of yourself and it was like, you know, your Facebook memories of like, this time, 5 years ago, you're like, wait, I look really different. Wait, what?
Sure.
But you still see that 5 years ago, 10 years ago version of yourself until you actually are confronted with like the then and now.
It reminds me of How I Met Your Mother and the glass breaking.
Yeah.
Where you have like certain levels of delusion that are going ahead and put up in front of you until undeniable evidence is put into your face.
And then the glass shatters.
And the glass shatters. And then all of a sudden you can't unsee it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so because this time is the time where women's optionality is at its peak, I would say this is probably the best time to get the best that you can get and cash out of the casino. But a lot of people have lofty expectations, or they just want to keep playing the field, and they don't realize that it's a game of musical chairs.
It's like the husband store.
It is like the husband store.
Literally the husband store. At the beginning, when you're like 15 and you're this angsty teenager who's got raging hormones, and you become like semi-cognizant of your market value, especially in light of all the adults, like you are very rapidly approaching your peak, right? And especially a girl will turn 18 and they have no constraints of like parents telling them they can't do this and they can't do that. They're starting to be
Adults.
you know, and especially if you take that gap and make some ostensibly grown-up money, or at least, you know, you're partially like living at home, but you have a job and like, so you have some cash to burn a little bit. You start to have this paradigm shift where it's like, I can go do whatever I want. And you get this influx of freedom and you want to exercise that freedom. And then as you progress toward the hottest you will be in full-blown like party year age, you just get into this mindset that this is the peak. So this is, you can't see actually, you're just looking at the horizon rather than this like dip and the roller coaster is going to start dipping downward.
Sure.
You just look at this. So you just think this is all there is right here forever.
And it's not to say that it's a really steep decline.
No,
it's
but
a
it's like-
gradual decline over years. But it seems like relative to how sharp the gain was, it feels like a relatively sharp decline.
Yeah. And I think when that wall happens, that's when that wall, like the actual cognizant realization, they're like, I passed it. Oh no. And I think that's why it messes with women, because now it's like, I'll never get that back again.
What's interesting is I would say that this is probably a good time for a guy to pick up a girl during this phase of life, right? Because she is likely to have less baggage and things like that. But we have social conventions that are built up to get rid of some of the intersexual competition on the part of older women against these younger women. So things like, oh, you can't be dating this 22-year-old because she's too impressionable, or she's not mature enough. You need to date someone your own age. And so we almost infantilize younger women as if they don't have agency to make their own choices. If they're old enough to vote and to have people go off to war because of the way that they vote, then they should be adult enough to make these kinds of decisions for themselves, right?
Nope. There's the coven.
The coven, they need to protect themselves.
They need to shame everybody into submission.
That's going to be a common theme today.
Yes.
Shame.
Yes.
All right. So while it can be ideal for a guy to find a woman in this age bracket, if they're towards the same age, it can be ideal, but there are some serious things to consider as a guy. Is there's a lot of responsibility to improve yourself rapidly to continuously be the best that she can get. Now, the timeline for a guy to generally rise to his captaincy is about 10 years. And so you've got to do so much maturing and so much aging at a rapid pace to be that guy if you're in this age category, and being with a woman for her to not really look aside and see, oh, he's a better option. And so there is a huge burden of performance on guys to build themselves up quickly, because we know that men's value in the sexual marketplace is made, whereas women generally are born with theirs. So like, y'all get an inheritance and we've got to build ourselves up, is one way to look at it.
But if, just like with an inheritance, if you just squander it,
You lose all your value.
and you get no more, ever.
Right.
You wasted it.
So I think that the fundamental challenge is that women are challenged to preserve their value, whereas men are challenged to create their value. Mm-hmm. Because just like with an inheritance, like you were saying, it's very easy to mismanage the money and for it to disappear. And it's how you see a lot of generational empires just go extinct after a couple of generations because the kids aren't taught how to manage the money.
Couple of generations of single moms.
Yeah, maybe. Before we get into single moms, let's transition away from the formative years and into the Epiphany Phase.
Oh, dear.
So this starts about 25 as they make their slow descent down to where ultimately in this phase is where men's average sexual marketplace value and women's average sexual marketplace value intersect, is during this timeline. And so as a guy, things to focus on are your physique still, because you want to be hot to be attractive to the women folk. Charisma starts to be a really big factor. It's less about what your actual physicality is in terms of like being able to play sports. It's how can you conduct yourself in a charismatic manner, in a way to rustle her jimmies in a good way. And then you start seeing competency being a really important factor here, as well as your ability to be patient with the process that it takes for guys to mature properly. And so it's really easy to maybe say, hey, I've got a good enough option, let me cash out, before you have done your maturing and before you've established yourself as a proper captain. A lot of guys will just cash out of the marketplace, and then they'll get cleaned out 7 to 10 years later.
For whatever odd reasons.
Sure, whether it's feelings or whether it's, oh, we've just grown apart, or the 7-year itch, or any number of things.
Well, I mean, like him cashing out before he's actually established. Being like the whole thing where I think it was on the list where, goodness.
What's the context you're going for? I might be able to help you out.
Where like he changed his plans for.
Oh, okay, cool. So you were talking about hypergamy, where, hey, it doesn't care about whether he changed his plans, his career goals, where he's going to school, or any of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. All of those things are really important things
In which case, you're her girlfriend.
Right. Because you're letting her lead the boat.
Yeah.
Or letting her steer the ship.
You'd be like, we'll just captain together. It's fine. But you never actually got your full accreditation. So you're like these two crappy like Gilligan, okay?
Sure.
It's going to be a great 3-hour tour, isn't it?
Yeah. And so when we talk about the Epiphany Phase, once again, we're talking about like from ages 25 to 30, 35-ish. Right in that like late party years to you're getting ready to hit the wall, and then a little bit past it.
Yeah, the definite epiphany of, oh my gosh, I'm past my prime. My youth is over. What am I doing with my life?
Sure. It's like, oh, I need to be finding a guy, and I need to be having kids. And when I'm going out to the club, the class of 25 is starting to show up, and they're a lot hotter than I am.
That is usually how the first idea, the first inkling that they're not it anymore.
They get fewer invites to the yacht clubs and to all these other things.
I think it definitely did come hard for the millennials.
Why do you think that is?
Like the actual younger millennials, not the ones that we're part of.
Sure, but why do you think that is?
Because there was so much emphasis from them making fun of, okay, boomer, kind of thing. And nobody gave a crap about actual Gen X. So, which honestly we like it that way. And it was always the millennials are the future, and all this. And then all of a sudden, here came Gen Z. And it's like, wait, what? And it's like record scratch. Party's over.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because a lot of times women in this phase will either try to consolidate on an alpha that they've been smashing throughout this time. And even though he's got some character qualities that she doesn't like, she really likes the other things that he brings to the table. And she would try to want to fix him and say, okay, let's get together. I can fix this guy.
Cue the Beauty and the Beast.
Cue the Beauty and the Beast thing. Or she finds a guy that's good enough and thinks that she can improve him over years.
Or if she doesn't, he's at least a meal ticket.
Right. Or at least he's a meal ticket, and then...
Don't be Captain Savo, I'm telling you. Why?
Right. If she doesn't have like actual burning desire for you, chances are you're being looked at as a meal ticket. Not consciously, mind you. Sometimes not consciously. Other times, it's completely unconscious, where they're just trying to get the best that they can get without their conscious understanding of the game that's being played.
And then that's where you get stuck in the chore play vortex.
There you go. And so we've got some social conventions that are really obvious in the Epiphany Phase. Those are things like, hey, you need to man up and take on your responsibilities. Or it just happened. I don't know, like, now I've got a kid.
Tee-hee.
Tee-hee-hee. Or I've grown from my party years. I don't do that anymore. Or I'm different now. So because I'm different now, you shouldn't hold my past against me.
And then when it roles reversed, again, like see previous episode, but like when roles reversed, it's like, oh my gosh, shame comes. And anybody to try and say, wait a minute, we just have to immediately forgive you. Like, and you're just a different person. We just got to take that.
Sure.
Nope. Shame.
We've got to forgive everything. And if you don't, you get hit with fragile ego, right?
Shame.
Which is more shaming language. And the thing is, like, a man is concerned with a woman's past as a woman is generally concerned with a man's future. And so that's a fundamental disconnect that often goes on is, hey, your future with me is not really a thing that is a burden for you. That's my burden to bear so that we can have a great future together.
Especially when that past, you have to feed, clothe, diaper, put a roof over its head.
Oh, you're talking about single moms. Okay.
I mean, those are like the actual, oh, my past shouldn't matter. Oh, I was young and stupid, but I'm different now.
Sure. I'm thinking single moms and like high body counts and stuff like that.
Yeah, high body counts is just like, because and that's worse because that's more of a mind game, because she's probably thinking about some dude that, like, you know, blew her bag out real good before, and she's like, he's not as good, but he's fine.
He's fine. She's settling for him.
Or she just book talks out.
She just reads books to satisfy herself instead of actually being satisfied. So I think a lot of things in this epiphany phase comes to like justifying, especially when you're doing the whole, oh, I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. It's like you're broadcasting signals of virtue without actually having the virtue to back it up.
Just the worst.
Which is the worst. And so they'll say things like, oh, I'm done with bad boys. Which implies that she had a great time with the bad boys in the first place.
I love the tip. Oh, who was? I don't even remember. When I saw this video, it was like, so if you want to know her body count.
Okay, what do you got?
You ask her how many is too many.
Okay.
She will always tell you higher than her own, but close to it.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
Okay.
Because then she gets a pass.
Right, she's writing her own pass. Okay.
Somewhat, probably somewhere, at least in the neighborhood, telling you around where that is. Just telling on herself. It's really interesting because, like, usually any of that shame stuff,
they're telling on themselves.
These hoes be telling on themselves.
And we see that on social media all the time.
Yeah, because they want to be the snowflake. They want to be, but I'm different. I'm special. Like, I'm not, sure.
And normally when they're pointing, this goes back to when you point at anybody, sure, you're pointing out, but you're pointing 3 fingers back at yourself. And a lot of times you've got people that are projecting their ills when they're pointing at somebody else. So we talked about how they're broadcasting their signals and they say, oh, I'm done with bad boys, or they're ready to settle down.
What do you call the opposite of virtue signaling? Vice signaling?
Vice signaling? Yeah.
I said it first.
Well, there you go. Fair enough.
Vice signaling. I love that. That's good.
And then something that's a real trap for dudes that are more like on the beta side of things is they end up getting with these women that are settling for them, and they'll get their settled best, where the dudes think that they're good, that the woman is going to give him her best, but she gave her best to the guys that she was betting along the way.
The inheritance.
Right.
She already squandered she's just got this little emergency fund.
And so he's getting settled best, which is kind of like getting sloppy seconds. Is she gave it all away to the guys of her youth, and then now she's just giving you the leftovers.
Dollar Tree and Bic rather than Gillette.
There you go. So a lot of times you'll also see women in this phase of life saying that she loves the man, but she's not in love with the man.
Yes.
And so that's telling of, one, her experience, and it's also telling where he is in her priorities.
That's woman speak for respect.
Or lack thereof in this case.
Yes. Yes.
And then a lot of times women at the epiphany phase when they're trying to lock down a relationship before the wall, they'll start issuing ultimatums. And usually when you're issuing an ultimatum, that is an indication that you are in a position of weakness. Right?
Especially if you throw that out there and then you just keep like dancing back and forth with it.
Oh, no. I would say that guys, if they're being issued an ultimatum for a relationship, call her bluff.
Call her
her
BS.
bluff. Absolutely. Because if she is trying to put an ultimatum, she knows that she's in a position of weakness. And if you succumb to the ultimatum, she will lose respect for you.
Instantly. Like, it's a no-win situation. When those knives come out,
No,
just put it right there and go, okay.
The win is calling the bluff. That's the win. Mm-hmm. If you accept it or you ignore it, she'll lose respect for you.
It's the same. An ultimatum is like the same thing as like, does this make me look fat? You can't win either way.
Her bluff. If she does look fat in it, let her know gently, if possible. If you're in a long-standing relationship, let her know. So my favorite line is, I'd prefer if you did this instead. That way I can go ahead and say, yeah, that doesn't look good on you. I'd rather see you in this. I'd rather see you out of it. But what? You got something?
I have a better line.
Cool. What do you got?
What would you like me to wear?
Great. I mean, that's a great way to approach it too. But then that involves submission, right? Is you have to be willing to put your decision-making agency in the hands of somebody else. And then at that point, you're not going to have any problems because I've seen you in different outfits. I know what I like to see. Let's do this one. And
But I mean, like,
you're not going to have any problems.
Select stuff together, like clothes in the general wardrobe, and it's like, what do you want?
There you go. Easy game.
Literally, you pick my clothes.
Yeah, it works out. And then we both have a better time as a result of it.
Yeah.
So we talked about the Epiphany Phase, hey, what goes on into it, where women are generally looking at the wall and seeing that, oh, their same-sex competitors are younger and hotter than them, and now they've got to get a chair before the music stops.
Now the race is on.
But now we're going to move on to the security and development phases. So this goes ahead and starts right about when the wall comes in the early 30s. Now, this age will vary depending on, how well a woman keeps herself, because there are some women that maintain themselves really well, and there are some that don't. And it's just a reality of life. It turns out that if you work on keeping your value and maintaining yourself, that you get to have your value for longer. Funny how that works, right? It's like anything else in life.
Houses, cars, bodies.
Anything. Yeah. So what to focus on as a man in this age category, if you are in your early 30s to early 40s, the 3 M's, your mind, your muscles, and your money. Like, these are the things to really have locked in so that you can be the best that a woman can get. Whether this age category or several age categories down, right? It's just one of those deals where the things that make you attractive as a man are not the same things that make a woman attractive as a woman. And a lot of times our society gets those things confused, where women think that what they're bringing to the table is their job or their skills in terms of what they do as a profession or their degrees. And we don't care about that, generally speaking.
And it's so interesting how now, once these lines have now intersected, and now the script is beginning to flip. This is when the shame gets much louder.
Why do you think that is?
From that group, because single women keep women single.
Okay. That's
Single,
one bit.
and mostly involuntarily, or if it's voluntary, it's like, I'm not going to settle. I don't need a man if it's just going to cause me all this stress and heartbreak, and they're just jerks anyway.
Or I'll manifest the right one.
That's not voluntary.
It's involuntary uncoupling. Sure. Now, something else to bear in mind, I think the reason why the shame ramps up like crazy in this age category is that the biggest danger to women's agency is men knowing their value. If a dude knows that he is valuable, it is much harder for an individual woman to lock that man down without his consent.
That is why the shaming gets so much louder. That is absolutely why, because the louder that they shame everyone into towing their own line, the more that they think at least they think they control the narrative. And the more everybody's listening to that rather than seeing what really is. And
Right.
and men seeing that they are actually in the driver's seat to pick now.
Yeah, 'cause-
that the class of 2025 is in the realm of possibility.
Sure.
That's in the pool.
Well, and if the guys are doing the work to rise to their captaincy and be the guy, they'll hit their SMV peak somewhere around 35 to 38, which is a 10, 15-year gap between when women hit their SMV peak. So it's really interesting to see how when dudes, as they hit their peak, if they were dating women that are at their peak, a lot of the older women shame the men for that. It's like, why wouldn't a guy that put in all this work get the best that he can get, right? So you're just shaming that decision for a man to try to operate in his own self-interest.
I really think that we talked about those ones that like cash out early, they don't fully complete the process. And then essentially it's just like flaccid already. Prematurely flaccid. They don't make it. So they're just like trying to like settle, and figure out. That is when you should hold on the hardest and just not give into that.
What do you mean by that?
Not give into the, oh, well, we're doing this thing, so we should just go together and we should just 50-50 and all that stuff. When it's like, give it just one last like hurrah and you can make it. You could be, the captain of your own destiny and have the pick of the litter, but you stop short because for some chick.
Or you got comfortable.
Yeah.
And instead of putting in the work to be the best that you're going to be, you went ahead and settled. Is that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, finish the journey, man.
And it's not like you're settling on the woman. You're settling on yourself when you do that.
That really, yeah.
And that's really devastating for a guy to be in his later 40s and then realize that he cut himself short because he made terrible decisions in his early years.
No, that's where the midlife crisis for guys comes in, really. Especially if 5-10 years down the line, they realize what's happened. And especially if she's just like, I'm not happy. You don't make me happy. And the female initiated divorces. And then you realize, like, I had it and I didn't for this.
Yeah, and I would say
it for this. Are you kidding?
And I would say if you're in that circumstance, like, bite the bullet and get the divorce and go be happy.
Yeah.
Like, really, if she is that unhappy and you are the best version of yourself and she's not happy with that, there's nothing that can be done to save that.
Well, especially because you can go make value. You can go make yourself better and maybe fit it. You can still circle back. Whereas she can't. And she'll realize that later, and that's fine.
And it's interesting, right? Because you've got a lot of things going on here where women are less interested in the whole like alpha thing, and they're more interested in just their security and provisioning at this point in time. Sure, they'll still dream of all the guys that they had in their youth when they were at their hottest.
Because they no longer qualify for that.
But it doesn't mean they won't hold it against the guy they settle with.
And every other person that will listen to them.
Oh, yeah.
Shame, shame, shame.
Shame. Well, and the thing is, this isn't another thing that happens with like women that are young married or for the 7-year itch. A lot of times this whole like mindset hits them around the time their kids don't need them anymore and they start going to be school age.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden their role as a nurturer and a caregiver completely changes. And just like when you graduate from high school and you move into a new context, just like that, when you move into a new context, all of a sudden you need to operate differently. And it's a new and unknown thing as a woman.
That's why that biological like security gland really is a thing, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. It starts to be like aggravated, it starts to throb a little bit in these new paradigm shifts. And it's just really interesting how it just forces this introspection.
Right.
It just forces this taking stock of things and how that phase of life, an evaluation of how that phase of life went. And even the time from when you transition from, as a mother, from having small children that you have to like do everything for, to having like teenagers where they're like starting to like forge out on their own. Like I'm experiencing like that where it's like, this is wild. Like these just little budding human beings and they're pretty cool people. It's really neat. But especially full circle now when you essentially become an empty nester. Now we've got the breakfast table situation. Right?
So you're talking about the 20-year itch. Let's go ahead and save that for the next phase. So that's good stuff. We'll save it for a little bit later.
Yeah, the 7 is more like what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like about now, like when they start becoming older and they don't need you and you're just kind of a glorified chauffeur, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's interesting how, because the average age of first marriage now is around 30 in the United States.
Wild.
Like the idea of the development phase, and the 7-year itch kind of lines up at the same time where men's sexual marketplace value is at its highest if they've put in the work. That puts them right at 37, which is right in the zone where dudes are hitting their stride and they still look great and they still can have peak level physique and all of that if they're taking good care of themselves along the journey. And so the way this development phase looks, it looks different depending on the context of the woman, whether they've never been married. It looks completely different because they're trying to get a buzzer beater. If they are married and they're hitting their 7-year itch, if the guy hasn't been doing the work to hit his peak, she's going to look around differently than she would if she's with the best she can get. And then if she's been divorced and she's already got kids, all the decision making looks radically different in that circumstance too. So it's really wild how the same like intersexual competition looks radically different depending on the different major categories of life changes that are going on with women at the time.
And the ones with the the greatest amount of kind of roadblocks to navigate that kind of situation, they're the ones making the most desperate grab for controlling the narrative.
And what have you got? Is that the loudest shaming voices?
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of shaming voices, that reminds me of like the path to spinsterhood. So spinsters are kind of like a pejorative term that we use for women that haven't been married and never got picked. Mm-hmm. And this is a thing that you see in China and Japan, and various cultures have different words for this, right? Like in Japan, it's called Christmas cake. It's because they have a cultural, phenomenon where children at Christmas time, they get a special cake called Christmas cake. And once you get to be too old and unmarried, you don't get to have Christmas cake anymore. But if you get married young, you still can't have Christmas cake because you're not a child anymore. You've grown up. You've grown into a marriage.
Something better.
You've gotten something better. And then in China, the word is leftover woman. Literally, leftover woman is what it's called.
They don't
play around.
They don't mince words.
They don't mince words at all. And so this cultural idea is a ubiquitous idea across cultures. And so it's not just like here in the United States or in the English-speaking languages or English-speaking countries that this phenomenon happens.
But they're more overt about it in more traditional cultures.
Right. Because they could just spit reality.
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry about all the shaming and being canceled and all this other nonsense that happens.
Yeah.
Because to them, it's just a fact of life. And we recognize that it's a fact of life. And a lot of our viewers recognize that it's a fact of life. But a lot of the society just wants to be blind to it and go, oh, you're doing just fine. 50's the new 20.
Yeah, they're just trying to control the narrative. They're trying to bend reality of what is to what suits them.
So a lot of times the social conventions that go along with this are things like, you're threatened by a strong, independent woman. It's like, look, I'm not threatened by any of that. I just don't find you attractive. That's not the same thing.
I'm not threatened by it. I'm repulsed by it.
Right. It's like, that's not what I'm looking for. So like it actually puts you at a disadvantage for that to be the thing that you shout from the hilltops. It's like, okay, you're independent, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. What I care about is the other stuff.
Should probably just like let me just scroll and like be exposed to all these like crazy single women keep women single blowhards and just watch my face just go, I am literally repulsed by this.
Sure. And then this is the kind of age group that is most likely to say that they're the table. They expect so much, and then what do they offer? Oh,
Yep.
I offer me. That's all. And it's like, what does that even mean? Means that I don't want to justify my value to anybody, but I expect you to bring all the things that I require of you, which is delusional.
Like the guy. Like, the one chick that comes to the guy's car when he's picking her up for a date.
Okay.
And she tells him that she needs $200 for a babysitter.
What?
So she can go. Yeah, literally.
At the start of the date?
Yeah.
Okay.
He comes to pick her up, and she goes to the car, and she's like, I need $200 for the babysitter. He goes, what?
First of all, who's paying $200 for a babysitter?
She's like, you can afford to take me to a nice restaurant. You can afford $200 for the babysitter.
Tell me the dude told her no.
Yeah, he left her.
Okay, awesome.
I was like, oh, I was about to have an aneurysm. I'm sorry.
That is the move, my guy. If she goes ahead and hits you up with that $200 bill.
Or she ordered, there was another one who ordered like a bunch of different food
To go.
for her kids to bring back to them.
For her kid. Are you sure it's for her kids? Are you sure it's not for Tyrone or Pookie?
She said, I got a teenager who eats so much, so we'll do this and this and this for him, and then for the little kids we'll do.
Sure.
And he's like, no, I'll take the check now, and she can carry the rest of it.
That is the right move, because hey, you're dating her, you're not dating her kids.
It was nuts.
If you're not on the same sheet of music for that, it ain't a thing.
Ma'am, the only thing you bring to the table is your audacity.
Yeah. So I think this is the point in time where women end up as victims of their own choices, where a lot of times they'll go and try to find the guy they would not have dated at 25 when he's 35 and try to say, oh, now I'm ready for you. Do not fall for that trap. If she didn't want to date you at 25, it's because she had her fun and she's looking to cash out her chips now. And then when she says that she deserves you at 35, no, that's just not how that works. And
You get to control who has access to you.
And he gets to control who he has a relationship with. There you go, which alludes to the basic trade. There it is. And then when you say, hey, look, I'm not willing to wait 6 months to sleep with her. And she's like, well, is sex all that matters to you? It's like, no, but it's a fundamental piece of the equation. And it's not like you're a virgin. So like, what's the deal
Again,
here?
we go back to what's the difference between a friendship and a relationship?
Yeah. And depending on context, sex is normally the big thing. And that's just what it is. But then when she goes and hits you with, oh, is sex all that matters? It's like, no. But if we don't have it, it's just not something that's
I have
appealing.
plenty of friends.
Yeah. I don't need you as a friend. And most women are not prepared for that. It's like, no, I don't need friends. I've got friends that are actually useful to me in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't see the utility in this.
That's where the beauty of I don't need you.
Right.
I want you. That's where that comes in.
But the thing is, in order for you to have that kind of confidence, you do have to have a life that's well established.
Yeah.
If a dude has a band of brothers and they're all going in the same direction and they push each other to improve, you definitely don't need that kind of friendship.
Call each other out. Are you going to put up with that?
Exactly. You call them out for their benefit. So the kind of utility that a friendship like this would generate from a woman to a man is usually not that valuable. So we talked about how in this security phase, you're really more interested in, hey, trying to get your security needs met. And a lot of times we've got all this shaming language to get people on the right track. And also one thing is, as we're turning from the 7-year itch and things of that nature, this is when you start seeing people try to play the chore play games and things like that, where, hey, if you be a good boy, I'll give you a cookie. It's like, no, that's freaking crazy. Do not fall for that. If she isn't giving it to you willingly and she's putting conditions on it, she doesn't respect you enough for you guys to be having that relationship. And that's just what it is.
It is a slow, painful, death by 1,000 cuts ultimatum.
Yeah.
Day to day. How does anybody live like that?
Well, because they don't see it coming a lot of times.
Yeah.
Which is why we're putting it out there and letting you know, hey, if she's going ahead and giving you pay for play and you guys have been married for a while, it's because she doesn't respect you and there's something else going on. So it's probably best to just level up. And if you level up hard enough, she's going to naturally come to those decisions on her own, that she is better off with you than she's without you.
And those are the natural things that put those cracks in the foundation of a marriage. And then all of a sudden, again, end of hypergamy list, you didn't see it coming. I'm telling you this so you can see it coming.
Sure.
Because again, then we get to the end of the list, and like I said before, then she divorce and goes back to the beginning, on to the next person.
And if you see wild things like, oh, she's losing a bunch of weight and going to the gym a bunch, like out of nowhere, there's usually a plan for that. If y'all didn't talk about it ahead of time, those decisions don't normally come lightly. And it's just her getting ready to go back on the marketplace, which paradoxically, if she had put that effort in, maybe she would have got better results in the marriage in the first place by maintaining herself better.
But then again, you say that out loud, and especially as a man, and you get shame, 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 shame.
All the shaming language. So we talked about the whole security and development phase. Now let's move on to the last bit of the sexual marketplace, like timeline for women, and that's the redevelopment and reinsurance phase. The deal with men, the thing to focus on is still your mind, muscles, and money. It's just what it is. Like, you have the burden of performance, perform out of self-interest. Everybody else will benefit tangentially from your efforts. That's the thing to focus on. And if you are not your best, then you'll find cracks in the system along the way. And if she does not believe that you are the best that she can get, once again, you're going to go ahead and see cracks. So it is incumbent on a guy throughout all phases of the sexual marketplace to know that you don't get the opportunity to take your foot off the gas if you want to have an amazing life. It sucks that that is the case, but that's reality. And I would much rather that you guys know what reality is than to live in fantasy land where you think that you got the girl and you don't have to do any more work. No, that's just the beginning. There's more work to be done. And the work that you do of your own initiative is much better than having to deal with chore play and other bullshit. That's just life.
Yeah. And this is, laying all this out. I can't imagine that a lot of reasonable people could look at all of this and go, oh, it's so difficult to be a woman.
Well, the whole society bends over backwards for them.
Like, they've created, and it's funny because this is of their own making. Like,
they wanted all the freedom.
They say how difficult it is to be a woman and how you're left a single mother and stuff. It's like,
it's a result of choice and natural consequences of choice.
And
most of the time.
The perpetuation of the narrative that's being fed into this culture. Oh, you can, you have to make sure, little girl, that you work hard and like you become educated and you do all these things and you build a career so you don't have to depend on a man. And when you do these things and you achieve a reasonable amount of personal success according to this narrative, you get to go live Moss. Like Taco Bell.
Yeah.
But you get to do this and you get to like, oh, I'm spending my big girl money. I'm going out and doing my own thing and I'm exercising my femininity. I'm living and all of this. And then all of a sudden your biology kicks in. These points in your life, you hit that point where you're like, you get that biological clock in the back of your brain. But then people tell you, you can do both of these things now. You can go, oh, you've done all this stuff. Now you can find a man. And of course, we've already talked about the fact that you are settling, and you have to take what you can get at this point because you've already lived moss in your party phase and you've got all this career and success and things. So you end up in this weird amalgamation of like mediocrity where you get like a man that you can tolerate. And
while you pine for the alphas?
While you continue to build that career because sunk cost.
Okay.
You've already gone to school and like gotten a job and you're building a career. You have to keep on with that, right? And then if you end up with a family with this other person that you tolerate, okay, well, you have to be mom and you have to be worker and you are wife when you want to be. And then all of a sudden you're like, you're not happy.
And you hate everything around you.
You hate everything. You're just the stressed out, strung out. I don't know how y'all do it. Like, honestly, I would be stressed out and strung out and I'd hate everybody too. And then they tell you, if it doesn't make you happy, you should just leave. You should just leave because you're not happy. You got to go be happy.
Oh boy. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that right quick.
And then it comes where like you try to seek novelty wherever you can in another person by cheating, in just leaving it all, divorce, and going and woman thou art loose that we're going to talk about. That's what I call it, woman thou art loose, little TD Jakes thing. And then just the cycle begins anew. And then these women, single women now who want to keep other women single so that they get to do more of the picking and control this narrative, the cycle begins over and you get the same lies fed to the next generation. But I'm the jerk right now that's exposing this and I get shamed into, oh, you're just hating on women. You're just trying to, and you're obviously a misogynist, right?
Yeah, clearly.
No. Why are we doing this? Why are we walking like this?
Well, because they don't want it to be exposed. And so shaming language is the defense mechanism.
So you get shamed into submission and we continue on.
Yeah, but the thing is we won't submit. That's the difference is like, I'm not getting fired. You can't cancel us.
You don't pay my bills.
You don't pay her bills. That's just one of those things where like, hey, we understand there's risk in exposing all this stuff. And it's just like, we don't care because we know that the message is important enough to get out there. And that people just need to know what the hell is going on.
Yep. It's like, men, know your worth.
And don't be delusional about it. If you are...
Don't participate in the delulu.
Sure. If you're just sitting in your mom's basement eating Cheetos and playing video games and not building yourself...
Like,
there you go. Don't be delusional and hope that you're going to get some anime baddie.
Just stay plugged into the Matrix. And if that's what you want, go off.
Right. But if you're willing to do the work and go on your journey, you can benefit from that work. And that's something that I want to encourage men is you have the power to pick better mates if you are in a better position because you have a wider net with which to cast to pick the best that's out there.
And if you don't want to depend on no man and you don't want to settle, don't settle. Go be happy somewhere else. You don't need to come here, come see me, and come shame me because I don't care.
So let's talk about this big old schism that happens where a lot of times you've got women that have this like just screaming security gland at this point if they don't have a dude.
So they have we're at that point where we have a man we tolerate.
Or they don't have a man. And so in either circumstance, you're tolerating a dude or you are trying to get someone to pay your bills because you don't want to be working in a soulless HR job for the rest of your life because HR is getting replaced by
So you're
AI.
working and you're momming and you're stressed out doing both and you hate everybody. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
And we're shaming other people.
And all along the way, in either of those two circumstances, you're still pining for the alphas of your youth. You still are trying to relive that.
Yeah. Your party years, they were great.
Sure.
But now you've frittered away the inheritance.
Yeah. And it's interesting because at this stage of life, that shaming language ramps up and they try to control relationships out of fear because they know that their sexual marketplace value is really low relative to dudes because the dudes that have been putting in the work, like their value will decline slowly just because like age is a natural thing, right? Like dudes can maintain themselves for longer, generally speaking, if they're taking good care of
But we're
themselves.
not immortal.
But we're not immortal. And we have to realize that. But we're not delusional about that, generally speaking.
No.
And in that, that's why women will try so hard to use shame in everything, because it's harder for them to put in the work to maintain their value than it is to just try to use social convention to shame men. And you'll see when they try to control their relationships out of fear, when the guys give in, it's game over for the guys. Because once you give in, the respect is gone and you don't hold frame in the relationship anymore. And so even though it may be like hot fire to resist it in the moment, it is to your benefit to resist and stand the emotional like tirade that the woman's going to put on, and if you're in a long-standing marriage, and hold frame, because she'll respect you more for it in the long run.
And ideologically, or if enough of this happens, we can start to move the needle, at least incrementally. It won't happen in our lifetime. Probably won't even happen in our kids' lifetime. But maybe we can walk this back to where we don't have this silly narrative anymore. I'm hoping to see at least some of that when I'm at least old and wrinkly.
Sure. I think when AI starts replacing a lot of white-collar jobs, we're going to see that happen real quick. Where all of a sudden now, all of these HR jobs and DEI hire jobs and all this other stuff that women have been jumping into, when they don't exist anymore because they've been replaced, then they're going to have to find their security somewhere. And whether it's through government more or through men, realize your worth and stay strong and pick in a way that it is in your best interest, because we assume that you're going to support and care and love for your woman when you pick her. So we talk about shaming language, and in this redevelopment and reinsurance phase, why we call it reinsurance is you want to make sure that you have an insurance policy for things going bad, right? And so you might be bored of your security, but you've got to double down on it, or divorce and get cash and prizes.
Or go seek novelty elsewhere.
Or have the eat, pray, love thing going on.
Oh boy. Woman, thou art loosed.
Yeah, the woman thou art loosed.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I'm so unhappy. And it's like, well, you're unhappy because you're bored of your life and you've settled so you don't enjoy the time with your spouse.
The life that you've created, sweetheart. I'm sorry.
And, during this age period, you have a lot of like divorce fantasy that happens. Yeah. Where people will idealize divorce. And a lot of times it's a bunch of divorced women that are talking to the one married woman that's still in the friend group, trying to let her know of all the wild escapades that they're on, and then influence her slowly but surely, because secretly they're jealous of the fact that she's been picked and she's in a long-standing happy marriage.
Especially those fresh out of a divorce. And then they're seeing any problems that you have to be very, especially as a woman, especially as a married woman who enjoys a reasonably happy relationship. It's not hearts and moonlight and roses all the time, but you need to be very careful who you air that out to.
Sure.
Because those are the women that will start to latch onto that and start to turn your head to show you how wonderful their newly found divorcee status is, especially when it's new and novel.
Sure. And then they'll take every complaint that you make on your man, and then when you are feeling down, they'll hit you with it.
I've literally seen this happen.
This is why I think that married women shouldn't really make friends with single women. Or if someone's getting divorced for like nonsense reasons, probably a good idea to distance yourself from that. You may have been really close friends, but you don't have really key things in common any longer.
Especially if they're starting to sow those seeds of unrest.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that is why single moms are the worst at this.
Okay.
Because they want to replace their companionship that they had. Or that they're just going to seek companionship because they cannot or will not / cannot find it in someone else, in a companion. They want to just Single women keep women single.
And then once again, it's really important for the guys to be at the top of their game so that this kind of thing is less effective on them. Because if a guy's on the top of his game, then the central question of hypergamy of is he the best I can get is answered. And you don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff.
Don't be Captain Save-A-Ho.
There you go.
Especially single mothers.
So let's talk a little bit about some of that late phase security where we have a lot of these ideas that are put forth that 40 is the new 30 or 40 is the new 20 that go to insulate women from their own choices.
Well, they loop themselves into this. When the narrative doesn't suit them, they write a new one.
Sure. And all the while their SMV is decaying, even further over time, they really, really want to seek masculine approval from a strong dude. And they just pine for it deep down inside in their innermost parts and being, right? And when they don't get it, it really messes with them. Mm-hmm. And so that's another thing that contributes to the whole woman thou art loosed kind of thing is they just kind of start slinging it around rather than
once again, like they did in the beginning. It's
right.
Interesting how that comes full circle.
Comes full circle, right? It reminds me of this interview that Charlize Theron was giving, was it last week or the week before, where she was bragging about at 48 or however old she is. I don't know how old she is, but she's in her late 40s or late 50s. That's not the point. The point is that she was gushing about how she got into bed with a 26-year-old, and it was amazing. And it's like, that's not a flex.
One, it's not a flex, and two, I'm pretty sure they probably had a sock on the door and watched your earlier movies and stuff.
Who knows? But the thing is, when a woman goes ahead...
There's still that floating around on the internet, at least.
Sure. When a woman goes ahead and brags about doing the cougar thing and getting with a younger guy, the society is like, oh, you're doing so good. Well done. But then when an older guy gets with a younger woman, all the shame.
He's a pedo.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, she's 22. She's an adult. It's fine. What's the deal?
I think this actually, if I'm gonna say the weird thing,
go for it.
Honestly, this rhetoric condemns not one but two generations of women.
What do you mean?
To this fate, to this cycle.
Okay.
That not only are they doing it for themselves, which they are, but we don't operate in a vacuum. There's another, the class of 2025, we talk about that. They're also looking at this. They're in it, and it seeps into, it permeates culture, and it becomes this culturally acceptable thing to go be a cougar and whatever. Mm-hmm. So not only are they enjoying their youth, but they are seeing that they can recoup or rehash it in 30 years. So that whole, what was it? The one thing I told you to bookmark.
Oh, okay. In the source text?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had it, hang on, I wrote it down. Single mothers are the greatest source of future generations of slutty daughters the world has ever known.
Yeah, that was a pretty.
Read it again.
No, that was a pretty decent quote by Rollo in Preventive Medicine.
Oh my goodness!
He just hit the nail on the head with that one.
It.
Sure.
It was, and I was like, that is true.
Well,
and that is you are condemning not one but two generations at least.
Because it's so hard to change that over generations when they see you as their example.
We're living that now. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about some social conventions that go along with this phase of life. And
shaming?
Not necessarily the shaming. This one's kind of different, right? And this lesson is applicable to every age category, but is really poignant for this age category. And it's Briffault's law. It says, when the female gets no benefit from the relationship, no relationship exists.
That's true. We talk about that all the time. It's like women operate off of self-preservation.
Sure. And so that's something to think about is, hey, if she's not getting a benefit from this, it's not going to happen. So once again, it reinforces the idea of the men's burden of performance. So let's land the ship. So today we went over the whole like life cycle from
Cycle.
15 to 50 for generally how women approach the sexual marketplace and different dynamics that are in play and how it interacts with dudes along the way, where we would make the recommendation that if you are young and you have high potential and you have the highest ability to gain and attain your best earlier in life, it's okay to get married early. If you have an amazing woman and you will always be her best. And there'll be some times where it'll be shaky along the way when like, hey, from 22 to 24, maybe you haven't gotten to your final stage. But if you've put in and you keep being the best version of yourself, it's easy for the woman to see, yes, he will continue to grow and will avoid a lot of this nonsense. But
those ultimatums and stuff, when they come into play, like right as you're about to, like when you're in the middle of the struggle bus, and then she's telling you to like, quit.
That's the time to move on.
That's dead weight. Drop it.
Yep. And so we talked about the Epiphany Phase, kind of like when the party years are starting to end, and now she's starting to look at the wall and where her looks are not what they used to be, and the new generation is coming to compete. So now she's got to find a chair before the music stops. And then we talked a little bit about the security and the development phase, where now she's shifting from really caring more about like genetic contribution of a dude and more interested in the security piece. And then we moved on to the redevelopment phase, where this is kind of like the 20-year itch, where the kids are moving out and now
Staring across the breakfast table.
They're staring at each other across the breakfast table and they're not attracted to each other anymore.
And I don't like you.
And so things break down really quick if you guys haven't been creating a wonderful relationship together throughout the process. And so we also talked about how shaming language is used along the way, depending on what the circumstances are. And shame is kind of like the weapon of choice of women to try to get men into compliance. And then a lot of times men even do that. You got all these white knights out here trying to save my lady because they think that by really propping up some of these women that have made terrible choices along the way, that they're doing them a social good, when letting them experience the consequences of their own actions may be the best way for them to change their behavior and their attitude.
Turn that shaming cannon into its right and proper order. Saying, hey, don't do what I did. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, that's kind of what we hit on in a nutshell. Once again, disclaimers. Hey, not all women are like that. Got it. And also, we're not talking about human value. We're talking about sexual marketplace value. They are very different things. So that's it in a nutshell. If you'd like to see more from us, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right over here. And then we'll have other videos listed right in here. Thanks so much for watching. Make it a great day.